Hey, who that's? Welcome inside Black and Gold. It was a wet, windy Sunday in Chicago, and the Saints lost another game 26-14. Rough game all around, Jeff, and I know you even had rough times around stadium and even getting home, for crying out loud.
Yeah, I'm not gonna sit here and complain about a charter flight, but I do think that what I'm going to tell you is a good kind of metaphor for what happened in Chicago, which is that the Saints went out there and nothing worked right. The, the team didn't work right, the offense didn't work right, the hands didn't work right, and the plane didn't work right. We sat on the plane on the way back for about 4 hours before they eventually took us off that plane and put us on a different plane, and then we came home. So and again, I'm not going to sit here and complain about the travel. I'm just telling you why I probably have bigger bags under my eyes than normal because we got home pretty late last night. But we'll have a lot to talk about. I apologize, came on a little later than intended. That's because news just broke. Not surprise news. But news that Kendre Miller, torn ACL.
That one's surprising to me.
Erik McCoy, torn biceps. I mean, it's not surprising to me in the sense that, like, when you watch these guys come out of the injury tent, you can almost always tell just by the look on their face how significant they think the injury is. And Kendre, when he walked out, he was looking up and you could see on his face, like, again, it happened again. Like you could see it. Like it was written all over his face. And I was like, oh, once I heard knee, it was like at best like a meniscus, right? Like something like that. An ACL done for the year. Meniscus you might be able to come back from. Like there's situations that you could rehab and get back in that season. Not the case with an ACL. He's done for the year. And then Erik came out, and I mean there were tears coming down his face. Like he was devastated because torn biceps, like that's the injury that ended his season last year, right? So it's like just can't catch a break, either of these guys. And so we'll talk more about that as we get into the episode, the impact of those injuries. You know, you're going to see more Luke Fortner and Devin Neal. But, you know, just 26-14, just a frustrating game. It's the second time the Saints went on the road and just didn't have it. Second time they went on the road in a rainy situation, it didn't have it. Maybe it's the rain. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe every time it rains leading up to a game, they just don't play well. Something about the moisture. I don't know, but yeah, that was a rough experience all around. It was muddy. It was gross. It was cold.
The reunion for Dennis Allen was a lot happier than on the Saints side.
He won the reunion. The reunion. And, you know, it was funny. At the end of the last episode, I told you my worst fear was that DA was going to go in there with this plan for Spencer Rattler, and it was going to be perfect, and he was going to just take him apart and get – and I said specifically 3 interceptions, which is what happened. He got 3 interceptions. Yeah, my worst fear came true because it really did it not feel like that when you're watching that game. Did it not feel like Dennis Allen just had every answer to the test? Like everything that they tried to do worked, except with the exception of that one drive or the 2 drives sandwiching halftime. Everything else worked.
Yeah, well, the Saints decided to, all of a sudden stretch the field. Then, instead of playing that conservative, protect the football kind of mentality, it seems that I guess Kellen's been running for Spencer.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's that. It's like you just weren't able to run the ball at all.
That's true. Yeah.
And so like when you become one dimensional like that, it's like, yeah, you might be able to hit some plays, but like they'll take it away eventually. Like you're not going to be able to live that way. You have to be able to have a counter. They had no counters. They had no answers. But we'll get through it. We'll get through it. So let's hit a quick break and come back because again, we're later than normal, so we don't have time to grouse as much as we typically would in these episodes. Kellen Moore is going to talk in a little over an hour. I'm assuming we'll get confirmation. We don't have team confirmation on these injuries as we speak to you right now.
Right.
But when he came out after the game and he said there's some concern, like it doesn't, if you just took that on its face and we're like, oh, wow, yeah, that's, if you didn't know anybody, you would think, oh, maybe it's not as bad because he said it in such a, oh, there's some concern. But Kellen usually doesn't say anything. So for him to come out at all and say there's some concern, just ratchet that up 10 notches and understand that's basically him saying, yeah, we don't expect these guys back.
The red lights were flashing. The alarms are going off behind me. There's nothing to see here.
Yeah, the second he said anything, I was like, oh, these guys are done for the year. Right? You would actually have you would have been more optimistic if he had said nothing. because that would indicate that he at least had hope to go out there. Like, well, no, this is, we know what's going on, but either way, it's going to have a huge impact. That number 1 overall pick has never felt more real. So we'll see how this goes. 1-6, not great, but let's hit a quick break and then we'll come back and we'll dive in to a lot. Again, I am Jeff Nowak. This is Inside Black and Gold. I'm next to Steve Geller. Usually I flip those things when I say them, but I'm just all out of sorts right now. Yeah, we'll get into it. Who dat? Thanks everyone for hanging out, and even in these terrible dark times, hanging out and chatting. So we'll get into a lot. But all right, we'll be right back. And we are back on Inside Black and Gold. Jeff Nowak here alongside Steve Geller, reacting after the 26-14 defeat at the hands of the Bears. And, you look at it and you're like, man, 26-14 doesn't sound that bad. It's one of those games that the scoreline, you could say the scoreline makes it look closer than it was, but I actually think it was closer than it felt. It was one of those games that, you look at it and you're like, the Saints had chances to turn it into a game. They really did, but you never felt like it was going to happen. Like you just knew the second the Bears, I think at one point I tweeted like first team to 13 wins. And it's like, once they got to 20, it was like, you're not getting to 20. Saints offense isn't getting to 20. Come on. What is this? What do you think this is? We've watched this team enough times to know that offense wasn't putting up 20 on that Bears defense. The fact that they put up 14 was actually stunning. And it was like singularly Chris Olave making big catches in those moments. But what is your kind of your first kind of take reaction as you kind of come out of that game?
It was definitely a matchup. You're watching the game and how you get a 3 and out, so there's that little bit of a bump of excitement. Like, hey, that skid was snapped at least with the opening drive touchdowns. And what happens with the offense comes out, gives it right back to you, and it was definitely felt like that gut punch. It's like you can't do this in games. You can't do this on the road. The defense holds again. You get a field goal after giving up the ball, but just an overall ineptitude from the offense early on. And it's one of those cases of not even too little, too late. There hasn't been that relationship between offense and defense where they're working together. They always seem to be at odds with one another.
Yeah, it's one or the other. You don't get both. And that it really set the tone. And it kind of like when we talk about, okay, what's Spencer Rattler been doing really, really well? And I want to talk about Spencer more as we go. Man. But like you kind of see like, hey, okay, what's the value of not turning the ball over? Because that was every point in that game that it was like momentum, right? There was a turnover, and Rajon Wright's brother. Did we get? I didn't even know he was in. I had completely missed that storyline. I knew they had Noah Sewell. I didn't realize they had Najon Wright. Which now I'm starting to understand the naming convention. The J in Rajon was kind of confusing to me, and now I see Rajon, Najon. It works. It works. The Wright brothers. They don't fly planes, but they do play football. Anyway, they could have used the Wright brothers to fix the plane on the way back home. Anyway, so no,
I was sad too because I it was one of the things I'd pointed out. I felt with Rattler too that I thought when his scrambling, we've been raving about his ability to do that, and even in pressure situations to react and be able to take off. He was good at protecting the football and not having it knocked out in that exact situation.
Yeah, it's like I don't mind scrambling. I really don't. But you can't expose the ball like that if you're going to like if you're outside the pocket, fine. Like if you're running to the edge of the field and you have kind of some sense of where bodies are around you, when you're scrambling through the line vertically, you got to have 2 hands on the football, man. Like he's just holding it out there, asking for someone to, like his own teammates could have knocked it out by accident. Like there's so many bodies in there. that just can't, like, that's on the quarterback. Like, there's a lot of turnovers that you look at and you're like, is it on the quarterback? Like, that's on the quarterback. That is on the ball carrier. And I thought a lot of these, and we'll get into the turnovers. I don't want to get too much into it now because I want to have a fuller conversation. Like, this game was rough even before the injuries, right? And obviously Kendre Miller's injury happened on this, his first carry of the game, which was the longest carry of the game for anyone on the Saints.
DA had that gree going on Kendre. I don't know what's up with that.
The second you put DA in the same state as Kendre Miller, his body just disintegrates. I don't know what that is, but man, that's brutal. I feel so bad for the kid because he's worked so hard. Like, it's not about he's not putting in the work. It's just, I have to go back and look. I don't know if maybe he took a helmet to the knee. Like, he's worked so hard. And his issues have been soft tissue a lot of the time. And it's like you tear your ACL, it's just like it just went. But that's going to put a bigger emphasis on Devin Neal. I talked to Alvin Kamara after the game, and one thing he said, and this is, I agree with this, is like, he's such an intelligent football player. Like, I think we're going to have a chance to see Devin Neal now, and that's the silver lining. And you don't want to say, it's a tough way to phrase it, but like, I think a lot of people were excited about Devin Neal coming out of the draft, and we're going to get a chance to see him. And, Alvin just kind of raved about his intelligence. Like, he understands the game. It's not going to be too fast for him. He's going to be able to go out there. He's going to be able to pass protect, and that's the biggest part. And we've seen him already, in training camp, but even in this game, have some really nice pass blocking up situations. So that's going to be the upside, is you get a chance to see what you have in Devin Neal. But that's just such a bummer for Kendre. It's tough.
Both of the injuries hurt. There's no doubt about it. One's your without a doubt your best player on this team, and Erik McCoy, leader, the talent, whatever you want to say. He's that guy for this team right now. And then Kendre, man, we've been raving about how he looked in training camp going into the season, and finally getting. It seemed like that break with the injuries that he had struggled so much with. And you thought, going against a Bears defense that was getting torched by the run until yesterday, you thought he was in for a big day.
Yeah, and I don't know, like, when I talked about the revenge game earlier in the week, one of the things I said was, like, the Bears defense is going to have a little bit more motivation, just in the sense that they're going to play for their coach and their offensive coordinator, right? Whereas the Saints didn't have, like, why would the Saints have extra motivation to go against Dennis Allen? He's gone. He got fired. He's the one who's pissed. He's the one in his post-game hype speech to his team, who they seem to be bought in with him, man.
Oh yeah.
He was like, so, some you're not good enough for some places, and that's cool. I'll do it somewhere else. And, like, it's a lot easier. It's so much easier to get guys on your side when you're a coordinator. It's so funny. Like, he's got a perfect personality to be that kind of automaton defensive coordinator who's not going to do too much, who's not going to kind of overshadow the coach, but is a great football mind, can coach up defensive backs, and can get guys to play hard. And I don't know about you, it just, the defense, the Bears defense just was more physical. They just out energied the Saints. Like, they went out there and were firing off the ball in a way that I didn't think the offense had. Like, the energy on offense did not match what the Bears brought to begin that game. And I think that's what you saw in the run game. Like, that's not a good run defense, but they were just blowing stuff up. They were winning in the trenches. And I think throughout the course of the game, the Saints offensive line got better. But man, they looked shell-shocked early in that game. Whether it was pressure, whether it was blitzes, whether it was just straight up just getting run through.
You felt it, yeah. That was definitely that intensity level for them. You hate to say it, the Bears took on the personality of their mascot. They looked like bears out there just mauling the Saints.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're right. It's a good way to put it. Like, it was like the Saints were lined up against five grizzly bears. Yeah. And they were just like, well, what do I do? Like, I'm just trying to survive. Like, it's not about winning. It's about not dying. And it just didn't, the confidence was gone. Right. And it did seem like when they scored that touchdown at the end of the first half, they came out in the second half and had a little bit more juice. Right. But because that happens in football games, it ebbs and flows. You see momentum. And, that's why the biggest downside to me in this game, and let's talk about the quarterbacks a little bit. The interception targeting Rashid Shaheed on that scramble. Like, the first interception was on the quarterback, but it was a weird situation because Chris Olave had gotten injured the play before, came off the field, and then it was Mason Tipton. And I don't know if maybe the timing with those guys wasn't perfect or if Spencer just missed, but the ball was left behind him. That's the Nahshon Wright interception. And he returned it all the way down. And that's where, like, man, you're a defense and you feel like you're playing well, and then suddenly you're on a short field for the second time in the game. Like, what the hell? You know, like, one of the reasons the Saints defense has been able to play pretty well is you've been putting them in reasonable situations. That's not a reasonable situation to ask your defense to play well in. And the Bears, that was their first touchdown of the game. They ran the ball in, and that was where the run defense really started to flag. But so, and that interception is what it is. There's going to be some mistakes, some bad throws, but situationally, I was okay with it. It was a third down. The Shaheed interception was brutal because I literally just gone on the radio and was like, guys, the energy on the sideline is like great. Like I was watching them all throughout the first half, and it was just dead. Like, it was bleak. Like, it just looked like everyone was just that 1,000-yard stare, and I didn't get the impression that anything good was going to happen. Then at that point, you're down 9, but you've scored touchdowns on like 2 of your last 3 possessions. It's a 1st and 10. You're rolling out. All you have to do is throw that ball away, live to play another down. You're fine. You're around midfield. It's not like you're sitting back there. And instead, it's like, there's a safety over the top. Like, that's not that. It looks open because Shaheed has gotten past his defender, but that's like a hole shot on the run that you're not going to hit. And I just think he didn't see the safety. He tried to lead him, and the safety, Kevin Byard, made a good play on the ball, but it's a ball that should have never been thrown. And that, to me, like, that was the point that, like, really kind of snapped the Saints' momentum. And then the game ended on the illegal forward pass, which was really close. But it's just like the execution in like moments where you have a chance to turn a game around, it's just been off. And that's the story of this team, is you have these moments throughout the course of games where it's like you make this play and you might win. You have a chance to steal a win here. You don't make this play and the other team just takes over. And it just seems like in every game you've had that moment. Like against the 49ers in week 2, it was the Alvin Kamara fumble when you're going in to potentially take a lead. And in week 6 against the Patriots, it was the Juwan Johnson fumble. This week, it was the interception targeting Shaheed. And it's like, that's the identity of this team right now. That's the story of this team, is in those big moments, they come up small.
That hurts, Jeff.
Yeah, it does.
That was like, even post-game, the Cajun Cannon, Bobby Hebert, he said it wasn't the bad news Bears, it was the sad sack Saints. And I was like, ow, that hurts, Bobby. That hurts from you.
Oh, man. Yeah. But no, and there's gonna be conversations, and like, again, like, that's the difference between a quarterback who's protecting the ball and a quarterback who is hurting his own offense. And no, it's not fair to look at Spencer and see this first game where he kind of had a blow up performance and say, get him out of there, he's done. But it is like, you look at the totality of the games we have watched, and at his best, at this offense's best, it has been a low-yield, non-explosive situation that has stayed in games and given itself opportunities. At its worst, it's been that, right? So you don't have a signature moment where you're like, hey, he like, look at this, where he went and won us a game. But you do have a moment where you're like, well, that cost us any chance to win this game. And then the win that you have was the game that you had 5 takeaways. So
we wanted to see things get more aggressive in the offense, and then it happened. And Spencer happened to have his worst game of the season too. Yeah,
and I don't think that the interceptions were a product of getting aggressive. It was just one miss, a throw behind the receiver, which we've seen. Like, that's not new. We've seen that happen. It was one throw that probably was a little bit too aggressive, and then the other one that was, that was a 4th down play. Like,
yeah, right. I don't really bother with that one either.
He could have thrown a safer ball that gets knocked down, and it's like, yeah, okay, turnover on downs either way.
Yeah.
The real issue is you didn't feel like you could run the ball in either of those on 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1, because on 4th down earlier in the game, you tried to run for it and you got, like, I don't know if I've ever seen a less successful 4th and 1 attempt than that, where Alvin didn't even get to the line of scrimmage. But
there was also a 3rd and 8 early on that you decided to hand off to Alvin. I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, I don't know if that was a check or whatever. Maybe you were thinking like, hey, if we get 5 yards, we'll go for it, and you got 2. I don't know, but
Right.
no, and it's not even just the balls that were thrown as interceptions. I'll have to go back and watch the all-22.
There's a few that could have been picks.
There were at least 3 that the Bears should have had interceptions on. Like one was a play that actually ended up being a first down on like 3rd and 19 because the ball fell incomplete and then someone hit Rattler in the head. It was like a good call in the roughing. Like you can't hit the quarterback in the head. But like that saved him. You know, there was a interception that I still like. If either Nahshon Wright or I think it was Kevin Byard, it sees the other guy and just gets out of the way, it's an easy interception. Like it only fell incomplete because those guys literally knocked each other off the ball. So that was just a shaky game for him. And it's like you really wanted to see a standout game before you saw that kind of shaky game to feel good about it. Because now you just come back thinking like, well, we know what the floor is. Have we seen the ceiling?
Right.
And I don't know if that's true, but that's all we can go off of is what we've been watching.
I guess the ceiling right now is the 3-touchdown day against San Fran?
Yes. And that was a good game. That was an objectively good game for him. And that was more about the defense than anything. But like, again, in those, game-winning moments, like I watched Bo Nix put up 33 points in the fourth quarter, like that, those are game-winning moments and you find the game-winning plays and, his pass catchers picked him up too. Like that's, there was a tip ball for a touchdown. That was a crazy game. Did you catch any of that game?
I definitely saw the historic fourth quarter there.
Holy hell. That was the only positive about sitting on a plane for 4 hours. I got to watch the entirety of that fourth quarter. And one of the Saints social media guys was like watching over my shoulder. And it was so funny because the Sean Payton's out there arguing at the 2-yard line with what I assume is like, oh, you're going to call that now, pass interference. But no, and like I was like, what's going to be funny is when the Giants score a touchdown here and then still lose this game. And that was before the missed PAT, and they came back down. But like that's team. Like you have teams that understand how to win. You have teams that understand how to lose. Right? The Giants are the industry leaders in game losing plays, and the Broncos are a team that has that kind of like feels like they have a horseshoe shoved up their butt because they always seem to find the winning plays. And the Saints are unfortunately a lot more like the Giants than they are like the Broncos right now. But and how much of that is the quarterback? And I tweeted this morning, and Bobby talked about this a ton, and that's one of the reasons I was talking about it. Yes, there are going to be a lot of conversations about, hey, is it time to go to Tyler Shough? Yes, that's a reasonable conversation to have. And if you don't think that's reasonable for a 1-6 team to be talking about, hey, should we be making that change? That's just a bad take. No. That doesn't mean it has to happen right now. And no, I don't think it's going to happen right now. But having those conversations has to be the case. You're a 1-6 football team. You are now beyond, hey, maybe we can turn this season into something. That's over. You're not mathematically eliminated, but you're eliminated. You're not making the playoffs. That's not a conversation. That's the foolish conversation to have. Is, oh, yeah, oh, well, we can't give up on this season. We can't play for next year. Like, no, you're playing for next year. Whether that's the message you sell in the locker room or not, that's the reality. And the second that starts being the reality, the priority has to be, what do we have? And I don't think you want to put Tyler Shough into the game against the Bucs and throw him into the fire like that. I don't think you want to give him his debut on the road.
I feel like it got even more complicated, Jeff, now because of the center situation.
It definitely does. It definitely does. And that changes a lot for you. I definitely wouldn't make his debut against the Bucs either way, but I definitely wouldn't make it in the game where you're trying to replace Erik McCoy for the first time. I know Bobby thinks the Panthers game is the one, and maybe it is because suddenly it's Andy Dalton who might be starting that game because Bryce Young's dealing with an injury. But I still think the week 12, like, it just makes sense. And like you may be 1-9 going into that game. But I do think like the take that Spencer has not gotten a fair shot at this is completely off the wall wrong. Like, how many NFL teams would have let it ride out this long? How many? 2? Right? Like, this almost never happens where you have a rookie that was drafted and you allow a quarterback to get this level of runway to see what he has. That almost never happens, at least in the sense of, hey, we have a 5th-round pick that was taken by a different regime and we're letting him take his shots here. That almost never happens. So this idea that Spencer is somehow not getting a fair shake, I'm sorry, that's just not true. He's getting as reasonable an opportunity as you could hope for in his situation. And he's played well. Like, it's not a matter of whether you're benching Spencer or not, because I don't think you will. It is, you're going to get to a point in this season where you drafted a guy and you might end up with the number 1 overall pick. And you have to figure out whether you feel like you have a quarterback in the building or you have to go into the draft head first onto the quarterback market. And it's not about Rattler. It's about evaluation. It's the same reason Quincy Riley is out there starting games when a veteran probably has a higher floor. Sanker, same situation. It's the reason you're putting Danny Stutzman in for 2 series a game. You have to find a way to rebuild this roster. And there's no way you get to the end of this season and have and not see what the rookie has when it is this far gone. So that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that is probably the biggest question right now with a lot of folks is, what are the Saints going to do here at quarterback? I'm with you with the fact I'm still riding out till after the bye week to pull this out, where you have that extra time to get that preparation with him. I think that Rattler hasn't lost you games until, this game against Chicago. Okay, he had a bad game, and I'm not ready to give up on what he's done yet because we've seen a lot of good progress in what Rattler was doing. Unfortunately, the finish has been the biggest issue, and that's not just been on him, though. But I am curious to see, to that kind of point, will the team respond around Tyler Shough any differently? And I think that the coaches have to know that too, obviously.
Yeah, One Smoke says, I mean, if the backup center's gone, being that should benefit Shough because they've been getting reps together, right? This, it's funny you say that because one of the funniest things Sean Payton ever said to me is, I think it was the game against the Bucs that Trevor Siemian got into and won. Remember, Jameis went down with a knee injury. Trevor Siemian took over. They went and won that game. And I remember he threw a touchdown to Alex Arma, the fullback Alex Arma. And I remember I asked him after that game, hey, do you think maybe, Trevor just had maybe he felt a little more comfortable throwing to Alex Arma because they've been working together in the practice squad or like with the scout team. And his exact response was, I don't think anyone feels more comfortable throwing to Alex Arma. And I was like, man, that's some serious shade at a guy who got a touchdown in this game, man. Like, you think you're about to gas up your guy? No, he was like, dude, like, you want good players on the field. You want your best players on the field. You do not benefit from having a backup in the game. The Saints are not going to benefit just because Tyler Shough, yeah, it's great that he's probably worked with Luke Fortner on the practice squad or the scout team. But you would much rather have Erik McCoy in the game, and not having him in there is a massive negative for the young quarterback, right? And that's honestly like, I feel like Spencer has a better chance to succeed with a backup at this point because he does understand things a little bit more. And so maybe that does push out that runway at least a couple games where, you might start having that conversation now, but it's still like you mentioned, like, I'm not down on Rattler. I like what Rattler has done. I feel like you've given him a chance to show you that he can be a viable NFL quarterback. And I go around the league and I look at some of these other guys. Look at Jake Browning. Look what he's done since trying to step in for Joe Burrow, right? Like, you see backups get in there all the time and you're just like, oh man, that guy's got nothing to offer. Like, he's not an NFL quarterback. And I don't feel that way about Spencer. I think his ceiling might be a little lower than I'd want for a guy that I'm going to dedicate serious franchise assets to. But I think he's proven he's an NFL quarterback. Just a question of where he's at. And so, like, again, it's not about benching Spencer. That's not what this is going to be about if and when that change happens. It's going to be about
second-round picks got.
Yes, exactly. So, I don't know. Like, this conversation is very toxic, and there's so many burner accounts who just seem dedicated. And I'm always amazed at how many burner accounts actually exist that seem to have no other purpose than to make, like, like bad faith arguments for or against one quarterback or another. And it's like, and it doesn't even seem to matter who it is. Like I thought it was like, well, Jameis has he has a hive, right? And so there was a lot of Jameis takes. But I mean, like Jake Haener has a hive, right? Like Spencer Rattler has a hive. Tyler Shough seems to have a hive. Not as big of a hive, but like they'll come out, they'll sting you. Now you'll be like, okay, get away from me. But like they exist for almost, it seems like for every quarterback, because, and I think a lot of it's college. Like you get the college fan bases filter their way up and root for a specific quarterback.
There can't be an Ian Book hive though.
There is an Ian Book 1 of 1 account, but I think it's a parody account.
That's rough.
Yeah. And I think what Spencer has shown this year, and this is not to say that he cannot elevate above this, but what he has shown this year is that he can be a viable backup quarterback in the NFL, like a guy that can be a Chase Daniel, or the guy I'd compare him to is Tyrod Taylor. I think that he compares very favorably with Tyrod Taylor. And there's a reason that like every year Tyrod Taylor is making like $8 million as a backup quarterback, because that guy's important. And like, can he get higher than that? Sure. But like, it's not a bad thing to feel like that's a guy's floor. And I do think that's his floor.
Yeah, I think one of the worst takes right now too, Jeff, we'll get texters, callers, whatever, want to say, oh, the Saints don't even have an NFL quarterback. You know, Spencer's not an NFL quarterback. And yeah, that's so far from the truth. If you're watching games, you realize this dude does have a place on a team somewhere. Come on.
Yeah, no, 100%. I really like what he's done, but that doesn't mean that you're going to just forget the rookie quarterback exists.
No, I mean, you made that investment. It's like, well, I got to see something. And like you mentioned, that they're not going anywhere right now. So I think it was great you put the fact that you're getting all these other young guys in, like Quincy Riley, Jonas Sanker, Danny Stutzman. Well, guess what? It's time to see that second round quarterback too. And yeah, I don't think they're pulling the trigger this week either at home against Tampa Bay. But after that, I think it is the next home game.
Yeah, Danny Stutzman, we're going to do a stock up column. And Danny Stutzman didn't do enough to be in my stock up column, but like the cowboy collar, man, I don't know what it is. When you have the guy wearing that thing, it just seems like he hits harder. I don't know if it's definitely not true, but it's like, I feel like you're better at football when you wear one of those things. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, like definitely makes you look meaner.
It does. It's got, I don't know what it is. But like when he goes out there and I see him in that thing, I'm like, oh man, he's going to hit somebody. I think it's just the mentality of preparing to hit someone so hard that you're preemptively protecting yourself from whiplash. I think that's what it is. It's just the idea that you're like, well, I'm going to hurt my own self if I know that. So I just got to prepare for my own.
They need to put Scattaboo in that.
I wish more guys would wear it. It must be kind of awkward. Like it's got to be, because guys are usually going for less pads so they can be a little quicker.
Right.
So it must be a little, but like when you're just, yeah. I like Stutzman. I think Stutzman's going to be a player. I think they got some players. That's why I can't be too down on, everyone's like, I don't got anybody. I think that they have holes, but we'll see. But
no, when you say they don't have anybody, I think the biggest thing is like you look at now every week we're getting the NFL draft standings, and wherever the Saints are, if it's not quarterback, you could tell me they're taking any other position, and I'd be like, sure, fine, great. They need the help everywhere.
Oh, there's going to be a lot of players in this. Like this is going to be, they're going to get a good pick. I don't know exactly what it's going to be. They're going to get a good draft pick, and this is going to be, of all the years, like, man, there's quarterbacks, but also there's so much else. You feel like you have the offensive line, like you don't, like it's the first year in a long time that you don't go in thinking like they're going to take an offensive tackle because they have to, And if you also feel that way about the quarterback, if like, and that's why it's important to play Tyler for at least some extended period this year, because if you do happen to have something and you go into that draft feeling you don't have a quarterback, that's such a feeling like you don't have to draft a quarterback. That's such a massive advantage because you can trade, you can pick up a lot. Like if they end up with the number 2 pick and there's a quarterback that you don't feel like you need to draft, you can get a haul. Like look at what the Bears got. Look at how did the Bears get back to this level? Because they traded with the Panthers, got a free number 1 overall pick, drafted Caleb Williams, and now they just have all these assets they built around it. Anyway, so we'll see. But that's my take on the quarterback. No, I don't think Tyler's going to start in week 8. No, I don't think the Saints are going to just throw Spencer Rattler to the bench because he's been terrible. Like I don't think that's true. But if you're out there arguing that they shouldn't be considering a change, then you were never being swayed by anything. So I don't know.
All I know is somebody's on the phone right now in the building looking at running backs and centers.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing. Velus Jones, like he's the only other running back on the roster, but he's also not like a guy that you've used as a traditional running back. So,
Right.
yeah, I think you probably do bring him back, or at the very least elevate him to have the depth. But I do think you have to probably go out and find a more traditional running back just from a depth perspective. Because suddenly it's like, what if Alvin gets hurt and you have a rookie and a converted wide receiver as your only two running backs? I don't think that's no disrespect to Velus as a running back. I think he's made strides in that part of the game. But you're putting a lot on that on a young player and a converted wide receiver. So we'll see. But either way, let's hit a break, come back, and we'll do the stock down segment. Again, Jeff Nowak, Steve Geller. We talked a lot about stuff that wasn't that football game. So let's get back in and talk about what really went wrong in that game. Again, Inside Black and Gold coming at you after 26-14. Saints lost to the Bears out in Chicago. Saints are now 1-6. It's ugly. We'll keep doing it. Stick around. And we are back on Inside Black and Gold. The Saints are back to back losers of games again. 1-6, man. Jeez, that's rough. Jeff Nowak.
This one hurt too out the gate, but for different reasons, like the Seattle. You know, that was the special teams completely took the wind out of you in this matchup. Yeah. Like I said, it started out like, all right, 3 and out, here we go, let's do it. And then a fumble happens and things change dramatically.
Yeah. Jeff Nowak and Steve Geller here. And I think there's a chance the Saints are just like a bad road team. Right? Like I think that you have to start kind of factoring that in because they've played 3 road games. 2 of them have been by far their worst 2 games of the season. You know, the other one was coming off a loss, coming off one of the worst games of the season. So you kind of bounced back and you had to really lock in for that game. And they did and played well against Buffalo. But like you go out to Seattle and you play your worst game of the season. You go out to Chicago, you play your worst game of the season. We'll see what happens next week. That narrative could be challenged if they face the Bucs and get completely boat raced. But I think there's a possibility where this team just plays a lot better at home than they do on the road, which isn't unusual. It's just we forgot that that's something that could be the case because the Saints have been such a bad home team under Dennis Allen. But you should be better at home. Like road games are supposed to be a disadvantage for you. That's why the home team gets 3 points on the betting line, right? So we'll see. Like that's why I'm not overreacting to this game, even though it's so easy to overreact to this game. But this whole stock down segment is all about overreacting. So let's do it. And so, Steve, give me your biggest stock down, your number 1 stock down from this game.
Can I just put everybody that's involved in run defense?
You can. You could do that.
Yeah, to me, because the secondary had its moments, and I could bring up a name or two for the stock up segment. But anyway, we're in stock down, and for me, just that whole front, looking from the D line to the linebackers, everybody failed miserably at stopping whoever was getting the ball for the Chicago Bears. The rookie out of Rutgers looked fantastic. DeAndre Swift was ripping off big chunks of yardage. And it was constant body blows there that just wore this team down.
Yeah, I agree. The run defense is in my stock down, but it's not my biggest stock down. And the only reason it's like, yes, I know 200 rushing yards, like it's a big number, but a lot of that came in the second half after, like anytime you're a defense and you get off the field, 3 and out, you get a short field and you hold for a field goal, you force a turnover, another short field goal or another short field. And it's like, there's a demoralizing element there. And you're also, as a defensive line, chasing Caleb Williams around. Like, that's just like, you're tired. And I think that's a big part of it, is you got to a point in the game where you were exhausted. And so, I don't know, like the game went in such a way that even the run defense, which wasn't playing well, was just put in an impossible situation. So, like, I think they're going to come back and play better against the run. And they have played pretty well against the run. Right. Like, you're coming off a game where Ramondre Stevenson had 18 yards on 13 carries. So it's not like this is a continuing trend. It's just something that happened in this game. And I think that's directly related to all the turnovers. Because anytime, like, quick changes are tough for a defense. We kind of look past that. And like, even the missed field goal, like, that's a quick change that you're a defense and you're expecting, okay, kickoff, right? And then all of a sudden you're on the field. And that's just not an easy situation for a defense to suddenly, you're on the sideline. Suddenly, you're running on the field, you got to play. So, like, it wasn't good. I'm not going to try to sway you to think that the run defense was good. I just think that was
6 yards of carry from your top backs.
Yeah. Oh, it was bad. It was bad. I just, my argument is that it was more situational and circumstantial than, well, this defense can't stop the run, because we've seen them stop the run. It's actually been one of the things they've done well, is stop the run. And I think, like, I don't think Caleb Williams had a good game. I actually came away from that game thinking, like, if Caleb Williams played well, they would have blown the Saints out in that game. They were in the game because Caleb didn't play well. And it was masked by the fact that they were able to run the ball so much. But what Caleb does do, and that's why he has the longest time to throw in the NFL, is just kind of like jitterbug around and extend plays forever. He didn't make any plays on those, but he did force the defensive line to chase him. And I think that does have kind of a body blow effect over the course of a game. Especially when you're getting beat down, you're losing. I think, it's a demoralizing thing. And that's what an effective run game does more than anything else, is it demoralizes you as a defense. And the Saints were demoralized in that second half.
A lot of big chunks getting ripped off, Jeff, and just rushing wise, it was like 11, 20, like, even like big chunks.
Yeah. And Swift had a really good game. I felt like he was just he's so fast. And when he can get, like, I think his issue is seeing the gap sometimes, but when he can get there, he's through him so fast. My biggest stock down was the run offense, more so than the defense. And obviously the defense was bad too, but, like, I mean, that was embarrassing what you weren't, where you, like, just because, that's a bad run defense. Like, objectively, statistically,
is it?
Like, empirically, it's a bad run defense, and you weren't able to get anything done. Anything. Alvin Kamara's longest rush of the game was his first carry. He got 6 yards. Oh. He ended the game with what, 30, 28? I lost my stats here.
Yeah, 28.
28. Yeah, like, I mean, no, that can't happen. And this was like, you could say, like, Erik McCoy got hurt, and that's when things really got bad. Like, no, it was bad from the start. You got out toughed, you got out physical in that game, and there's just no way around it. Like, they were the better, more physical team. Yeah,
it was really disheartening. And then, with the Kendre Miller injury early on, the run game kind of just, it got swept under the rug totally, and the Bears just pounded them into the ground. Whatever you want to say, it was a non-factor at all this entire game.
Yeah, no, and I mean, just a success percentage of 36.4% for Alvin. Yeah, Alvin didn't have his best game. He didn't pass protect well, which is frustrating.
He got tossed one time I saw.
Yeah, and then he had another one where we just kind of, like, let him go, which I don't know if maybe it was a mistake. Like, I think maybe he thought he was going to have the protection was not what he expected, because he kind of let it go, and it was like, wait, what happened? Like, because the guy ended up making the hit on the quarterback. So I think there's just a lot of execution issues that keep cropping up for this team.
That's, I think, going to be the new buzzword for our podcast drinking game, Jeff.
Execution.
Or I think anytime Kellen says execution too, we should drink.
Yeah, and that was my biggest stock down, or one of my bigger stock downs was just like, yeah, and we talked about this in the first segment, so I don't need to go over it again. But like, you have moments where it's like you got a great play call, you've got a great design, like you're set up for success, and then something happens that just takes it away. In this case, it was, hey, Taysom Hill, you're throwing a lateral, man. You're not playing quarterback right now. You're throwing a lateral. You're throwing a freaking lateral. You got to throw it backwards. And, some of that's timing. Like, he's got to get it to Alvin on the run. Like, that's the whole purpose of that play, to get him with a head of steam, and it worked. But, and I do think the refs got it right. Like, it's not a difficult call to make when you go back on review. It's like there's times where you're like, do you have enough evidence? Yeah. It's like all you got to do is see where the ball was thrown and where the ball was caught. And the ball was caught slightly ahead. And it's just a matter of, instead of throwing it backwards, you threw it like not far forward, maybe like 6 inches, but you could see it.
Still can't do it, right? And
I knew it was going to go the other way, because when Deuce is like, this is getting overturned, I know it's getting overturned. Because Deuce is like the biggest homer on replays, man. I've learned the hard way not to trust him. Like, if you asked him, Juwan Johnson didn't fumble the ball, Alvin didn't fumble the ball, like, and it does seem like the Saints have, Alvin after the game was asked, like, what did you think of the review? And he was just like, yeah, basically, whenever the reviews happen, I just take my helmet and go to the sideline, because I know it's not going to go our way. It never does.
Yeah, I heard you sent that audio in after the game yesterday, and hearing him say that, I was like, I felt the same damn way, and I think a lot of fans do too.
The second it goes to review, I'm just like, whatever it was that was benefiting the Saints is going to change.
Right, we're not getting that call.
never goes our way. And even the ones that I think are going to go our way, like the Theo Johnson fumble against the Giants, like that didn't get overturned, even though it's like, well, why not? And it's not even about like it's just bad luck. They just have bad luck, and it's like, it's a question of whether you believe luck exists or if you think luck is a product of preparation. And
a little of both.
It seems like it's happening way too frequently to not have something to do with the preparation. And so like that's the identity of this team right now, is close but no cigar. Is like, hey, you have the right idea, you can't get it done.
Yeah, I guess you look at it as if you're doing, the more you're doing correctly, the more favorable it is. The more chances you'll have at having luck on your side, as long as you're doing the right things.
Yes, exactly. My other stock down, which is like, we already talked about Spencer Rattler at length, so we don't need to do it again, but like protecting the ball, like, and it's honestly, it's funny. It's a stock down in protecting the ball, but it's a stock up in the concept of protecting the ball, because like this game just showed you, like, your margins are thin. And when you're not turning the ball over, you have a chance. When you turn the ball over 4 times, you're going to lose every game. There are some teams that can find ways. Like if you're the Josh Allen Bills and you just have a bunch of mistakes in the first half and you can come back because you have that dynamic offense. The Saints, I would bet I would put like $100 on it right now that the Saints will not win a game over the next 2 years that they lose the turnover margin by 3 or more. That it will just not happen, because that's just not what this team is.
No, right now they just don't have that firepower to be able to keep up.
No, you don't make up gaps with this type of offense. And it's funny because it's like, this is an explosive plague roster, but everything that's being coached feels like non-explosive. It's just, it is very, because it's like, let's go over the top. Oh, we got Chris Olave there, and it works. But then, and you did, one of your interceptions was trying to be a little unnecessarily explosive. So that is what it is. But yeah.
Yeah, not fun, Jeff.
I was really close to having Juwan Johnson in my stock down segment, but then he had a really good second half. And his one big mistake was erased by Chris's big play. So it didn't end up hurting him, right? And even then it was like, that's a tough catch, but he needs to make those catches. The excuse can't always be that's a tough catch. Like every now and then you need him to make those.
Lumped into the category that you want to talk about, just in general kind of things. Special teams is still a nightmare, from the punting game, and Groupie gets another miss.
Trust me, that's on my list.
Okay.
I do want to, the Groupie miss, and it's like, I don't know how much this comes through on TV, but like, to me, the mistake was not Groupie missing. To me, the mistake was trying to kick a 53-yard field goal in that situation. Because, like, I'm down on field level, and I can tell you, like, it wasn't just gusting, it was swirling. Like, every time the wind would gust, it seemed like it was coming from a different direction, and some of these stadiums are like that, where just the way the wind enters it, it just kind of swirls around, and you just don't know. It's impossible to gauge. And, like, sometimes you're trying to play the wind, and then it's not blowing. And suddenly it's like, well, I have to kick it out here. And then I think that might have been what happened, is he was playing the wind, and it just didn't move the ball the way he thought it was going to. But, like, when Kendre Miller was in the injury tent, just for perspective, like, the thing almost blew away like 3 times. I've never seen that. Like, the wind almost took the injury tent off of Kendre Miller. And throughout the course of the game, they had to have, like, staffers standing on the corners of it.
Right.
Like, it was like that. It was just kind of this weird day of wind, and it was inconsistent. And that's almost worse than a heavy wind. Like, I think you'd prefer, as a kicker, kind of a steady 20-mile-an-hour wind than an intermittent, like, 13 to 15-mile-an-hour wind. Because at least you can play it if you know it's going to be there. And so, like, again, yeah, it's a miss. I can't be mad at a kicker for missing from 50 plus in those conditions. It's on the offense for not giving him a more makeable kick. But at the end of the day, you're missing kicks, and it's your 6th miss of the season, and that's too many. And if you had banked a little bit more like good faith, I don't think people would have been bad about that miss. Like, but that's just where you are. You've missed 3 times from 50 plus. I think it's 3 times. I think he's 2 of 5 from 50 plus. Is that right? I think that's right. So it's definitely not a positive. And then Kai Kroger with another 31-yard punt.
I was surprised there wasn't more anger towards that on socials.
I think most people had given up by that point. And it also wasn't a backed up kick, so it wasn't as obvious that it was a shank.
It was just definitely one of those you're looking at him like, he just kicked it. He just punted 31 yards. Yep. I felt like Jim Moore right there.
And it's coming off of a 24-yard punt last week?
Right.
Maybe it's like his first punt of the game every week.
Oh, that sounded like somebody else that was having problems. I forget which one that was.
It was Lou.
Yeah.
Lou Headley. Which, like, man, if bring Lou Headley back. Like, every week, Lou must be, if Lou still watches the Saints at all, he must be like, I could do better than that. I can kick it farther than that, mate. That's my Australian accent for him. Because Kai doesn't have an accent. He's doesn't have the mate in him. But it's more, it was kind of a Kiwi. It was more New Zealand than Australian, I think. They'll get mad at you if you don't get it right. So.
And Kai is also holding for Groupie, correct? Yeah, so I'm wondering if there's an issue there as well. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, that's, again, like, that kick is a 53-yarder in the wind. I don't think
overall, not just yesterday.
But no, they did mention that there was a weird lean in one of the kicks against the Giants. Yeah, that was the one where he missed 2. So I don't know, maybe, but I don't think you're a professional kicker, like, and here's the thing: you've missed enough kicks. Like, you're not a professional kicker anymore. You're just a guy who can kick the ball far, like the guy for the Giants.
I don't know. My new conspiracy theory is that somehow they're trying to he's trying to sabotage what Groupie's doing. So Kroger's out to sabotage Blake Groupie
because he's more of like a Food Lion guy or like a Winn-Dixie.
I don't know what it is. I guess he's good buddies with Charlie Smith on the DL.
I was just a grocery store chain joke. It's not spelled the same. He is not the heir of the Kroger fortune. Anyway, Food Lion. I haven't said that in a while. That's a South Carolina. I bet Spencer Rattler has shopped at a Food Lion.
Yeah, I've never been.
It's just a grocery store. They have Piggly Wiggly too. That's a fun one.
I've heard of those just because of a movie.
Yeah, Food Lion had like a big scandal back in the day because they just like mishandled meat, and like there was a guy, like a reporter posed as an employee and like went back, and it was a whole thing. and then they got sued. Like the Food Lions sued the news.
Undercover at the grocery store.
Yeah, you don't see a lot, but it was bad. Like, and Food Lion won, even though they were like poisoning people left and right. It was a whole thing. You should look it up. Look it up. It was a big scandal back in the day on both ends, because reporters aren't supposed to go undercover like that. This isn't like a sting. And he because he filled out paperwork. He filled out paperwork like under false pretenses.
Right.
And it was like, that's fraud. Like, you can't do that. Anyway, so anyone else before we move to the few good things that happened in this game?
No, I think we touched on a lot of the negative Nancy's for yesterday.
All right, that works for me. I appreciate that you were just like, yeah, I'm done. That's good. Well, a lot of times I feel like you're just like, I got to force some bad juju out of me, and you were just like, I'm done with it. I like that. I think that's healthy.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to get to Kellen Moore too, and he's got some big announcements he's making.
Yeah, you're right. We're not gonna have time for a mailbag, so we're gonna have to get to it.
Mailbag.
But I'll throw some questions because we're not gonna have a lot of good stuff to talk about. So I'll just turn this back segment into kind of like halfway mailbag.
Yeah.
And then when we're done, we're actually done. So don't stick around.
Bordolino's he put up there. This should be a short segment talking about stock up.
Yeah, there's a few things like anyway, we'll get to it. Jeff Nowak, Steve Geller, Inside.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. You'll never believe what comes next. And on Inside Black and Gold, Jeff Nowak here with Steve Geller. Once every 3 episodes, I have to introduce you like you're coming on Price is Right.
I wish.
Yeah. Me too. I'd like that for you to be on The Price is Right. You would be a 1 penny guy, aren't you? Wouldn't you?
Whatever it takes, yeah.
Yeah. Whatever it takes. I will not hold anything back. All right. So yeah, we did the stock down. We complained, we groused about quarterbacks and turnovers. Now it's time to talk about the positive things from that game. And so, I mean, I'll just start this one because there's a really obvious one. And it's one that I kind of had to take earlier in the week. I called it a tap sign take, which is like, when something happens and there's like, just tap the sign, like just read the sign. Like I've already said it. And it was that I think people are going to have a switch up on Chris Olave this year. Pretty like whiplash type take, like switch up, where by the end of the season, we'll be talking about like, okay, like I get it. And I think like he's had a slow start to the season. He was coming off a lot. Like it's reasonable to understand that he had a slow start. The hands were letting him down. He's got good hands. It's not a matter of whether he can catch the ball. It's just a matter of him making the plays. And, the other thing I said was, hey, I think that he's not going to get traded. Like everyone thinks they're going to trade Chris Olave. I don't think they're even really considering trading Chris Olave. And it would take a very, like, you trade him, but like no one's untradeable. But it would take like a legitimate offer. It's not like, oh, 3rd round pick, give it to me. No. You drafted him in the 1st round. You drafted him to be your franchise receiver. You're not just giving him away. Now, if someone came in with like a Godfather offer, sure, like that's a different conversation. I think it's a lot more likely he's extended by the end of the year than he's traded by the end of the year. And it's games like that like start to make you remember like, oh yeah, okay, he's got that potential. And that the big play. My only gripe with that 58-yard catch is it should have been a 70-yard touchdown. He kind of lost his footing. It's like, you got to run away from that guy, man. What are you doing? But no, it was cool. It was cool to see him respond in that way. I would like to see more catches, but what I need from him is to take advantage of the opportunities that are there. And he did that. Like it wasn't a situation where it's like, oh, you had 5 catches for 98 yards, but you should have had 200 if you didn't drop this, drop that. So that was my stock up, is just big play Olave. Like you need your wide receiver 1 to come up big in big moments. And that was the first time this year that I felt like you really saw that.
Yeah, for sure. For me, it was, great job. Now let's see it again, please. It's a little weird, Jeff. Back-to-back games of just 98 yards. Can't get over that 100-yard mark.
98 yards. Exactly 98 yards. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like that's why I'm not tapping the sign yet. Like I put a tap sign take up there, but I'm still holding off because I do think there's like a 200-yard game in there. I do think there's like a 10 catch, 160-yard, 2-touchdown game in there, and you just haven't gotten it yet. And once you do get that, it's going to be a national thing, and people are going to really kind of come back around and be like, "Oh, that's right, that's that guy," because he's such an elite mover. Like you just see the way he moves around. It's like he can do that. Like he can be that guy consistently. Is he a wide receiver one? I don't know. Is he a guy you want to pay $30+ million? I don't know. But he's definitely a guy you want on your roster. There's no question, right? Can you maybe add a more physical player next to him than Shaheed and have better results that way? I think it's possible. And like if I had to pick between Olave and Shaheed, I'm picking Olave. And I think that sounds controversial. It's not that controversial.
It's tough because I feel like Olave just hasn't. I mean, Shaheed hasn't gotten enough involvement in the offense. We've seen, some plays to him. It's just overall the offense hasn't really impressed me throughout the 7 games. So I know Olave's getting the targets. It seems like Spencer Rattler, that's his guy to try and get the ball to. And yeah, they just need to connect more frequently because one of the two have been off. And kind of like I talked about with offense and defense, they just need to get on that same page more. Hopefully this was a sign of more things to come. And I guess, rattling the cage on trade rumors and contract talks maybe helped.
Yeah, maybe kind of helped him lock in. But yeah, back-to-back games with a 50-yard catch, back-to-back games with 98 yards, first 2-touchdown game of his career. He did say after the game, I talked to him after the game, and he said that they have been having contract talks. But I think people misunderstand. Like when they say we've been talking about a contract, it's like, yeah, agents, that's the agent's job.
Right.
Like it would be weird if they weren't having some preliminary conversations about a contract.
You mean Chris after practice, Chris isn't going up to the office with his notebook and jotting down numbers?
I think that's what people picture when they hear that. They just walks in, he's like opens Mickey's door. Nick, you gonna pay me now?
This is what I'm looking for. Pay me, Mick.
No, yeah, it's the agent saying, "What are you thinking? What are you thinking?" And the way Chris has framed it, I think this is a situation where if he was willing to agree to like a $15 million annual contract, it probably happened tomorrow. I think he understands that this year is very important for him to put together that wide receiver one type campaign so that in the offseason he can ask for more. And that's why, that you're down on him because he hadn't done that. If he has a run of games more like this, then he's going to have a lot more bargaining power. And we'll see how that goes. But that's one of my only real stock ups is a big play Olave. Like that's the guy you need for this offense to do what it needs to do. That's the guy you need. And he delivered in this game. Hopefully he can keep delivering.
Yeah, that definitely is the big standout one. And I thought early on we were going to be in store for a special game from Chase Young on the defensive side of the football. It was, active breaking up passes. He looked like he had that burst to him and seemed extra motivated this game to cause some havoc. Unfortunately, we know, things didn't go great for overall, but it was nice to see him being more of a presence with his defense. And yeah, it was just game 2 back for him right now.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I can't be super negative about the defense. And obviously the run defense is was a big issue, and that's something they need to figure out. But the defense did a lot of good things in this game. They forced a turnover. They got off the field they forced a 3-and-out on the first possession of the game. Chase Young, batted down multiple passes in this game. It's something he was really effective at doing in camp. He's good at it. He's really quick off the line. He's got good reactions. He's huge, and he's got a long wingspan, so he can make plays like that. And it was a factor for him in training camp. It's one of the reasons it worked because you could just drop him into coverage, and he's really athletic, and he can get to the ball, and he did that. Caleb had a hard time navigating him. This was just a weird matchup from a pass rush perspective because Caleb is just so good at extending forever. But you have to. So Chase Young, that's a part of it. I thought he did have a solid game. He did have his first sack of the season, or at least a half sack. that you think he split it with Brazil.
Yeah.
But to me, the biggest stock up was the DBs and Plaster, right? Because what does that mean? Like so you have the first phase of the play, and that's, whatever scheme you're running, that's what you're doing. And then there's Plaster, which is like the quarterback still got the ball. Quarterback can still throw the ball. And what Caleb Williams does, I think to a fault, is he's always maintaining the ability to throw. I think if he actually pulled the ball down and ran for 10 yards in some of those situations, they'd be way better off. But instead, what he does is he just kind of jukes, He looks like he's playing dodgeball back there, just, and did you watching that game, like that happened at least 4 or 5 times. I don't even know if he completed a ball on doing that, right? And in order for that to happen, in order for drives to end with him just running around back there, it means that the DBs are sticking on their guy. And that's a long time to have to stay connected. And so you got to give him a lot of credit for that. Like, I get it. The run defense was bad, but that's the difference between getting off the field on 3rd and long at a high rate and having drives extend forever because you can't get off the field on 3rd and long.
What's wild, when you look at the stats, Spencer Rattler had a higher quarterback rating than Caleb Williams. What?
Caleb didn't have a good game. He really didn't. If they, and obviously he didn't need to because they were running the ball and they kept getting the turnovers. But no, and I mean, so one of the things I've been super critical of is the 3rd and long defense. Talk about it almost every week. This week, and I always go through it when it's bad. So I have to go through it when it's good. And this week I'll set it at 3rd and 6 or longer because there was a 3rd and 6. And if I don't set it at 3rd and 6, which is a 3rd and long, then it's like, we just ignore that play. So they had 8 instances of 3rd and 6 or longer, the exact same number that they had last week, where I had set it at 3rd and 7 because there was no 3rd and 6. They got off the field on 6 of those situations. 2 of them were for field goals, which, it is what it is. But that's a 75% success rate at ending a drive in 3rd and long. And that's where you need to be. Now, it's probably high. Like, you'd settle for something like 65, 70%. But like, that's what a defense should be doing in 3rd and long situations. So you had a 3rd and 10. Caleb connected with DJ Moore for 6 yards, punt. 3rd and 17. That was the Quincy Riley interception, which is a really nice play by him. He's also in my stock up.
Agreed.
3rd and 9. This is one of the conversions. Caleb Williams found Roma Dunze for a +20. That's a first down. 3rd and 8, an incompletion. It's a field goal. 3rd and 7, Caleb found Kostin Loveland for +9, first down. That was the other complete conversion. And then 3rd and 10, found Olamide Zacchaeus for +6 and a punt. 3rd and 6, that was the sack for Brazil and Young. That forced a punt. And then 3rd and 15, late in the game, they ran the ball +4 field goal. So, like, 75% success rate on 3rd and long. Stuck up. Like, that's what you have to do. So the fact that they did it, and against a guy that is extending like that and isn't just like pulling it down and running, I mean, that's one of the things I came away from this game feeling pretty good about.
Yeah, you mentioned with Riley, he was definitely in the stock up for me just because, too, obviously the guy getting the interception for you, he's been, getting a lot more playing time. We like to see that for him, getting those chances. And Rook made the most of it, getting a pick last night.
Agreed. I only have one more, and it was Alontae Taylor's tackling. And I say that specifically because I think he struggled as a tackler early in the season. I was very critical of him as a tackler. I think it was against the Cardinals. Oh, no, against the 49ers. Whoever their backup's tight end's name is, I can't remember. Luke Murray. Is that right? Jake Murray? Luke Murray? I don't know. But he had a chance to tackle him, and instead it was a touchdown. Like, in this game, go back and watch the tape. He's lighting people up, including his own teammate at one point. And that was a mistake. And there was like the latest concussion check. Like, they took him out of the game like 5 plays later for a concussion check, and it was over in like 10 seconds. I even saw the Saints doctor walking back to the tent. Like, what the hell? Like, why are we doing this? Like, he's
definitely
fine.
I've never seen that one before.
I've seen it happen, but it's rare. And like, he had to come off the field for a play after he got, after he went down and he was down the field. So it's like, you really didn't think then that was the time. And so, yeah, but anyway, but he was laying people out. Like, there was 2 or 3 hits in that game that it was like, he was bucked up. Like, he was hitting. And I appreciate that, because that was one of my bigger questions for him at that star spot, is can he tackle at an elite level? Can he be that guy? So it's like, hey, you gotta make a run stuff, and you can't allow an extra 3-4 yards or miss a tackle. Like, you got to get up there. And I think his tackling has improved, and that in the run defense notwithstanding in this game, I do think that's been a bright spot over the last few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it, this squad needs any bright moments you can point out right now, because it's just tough. I'm just thinking more and more, Jeff. I'm just reeling over the fact that McCoy and Kendre Miller on the shelf now for the rest of the year, and you've got some serious issues at your center. And who the heck's going to be your next running back up? I know Devin Neal's in that mix, but you're going to have to bring somebody in. And I think we talked about it earlier. It's got to be more than Velus Jones.
Yeah, I think you probably elevate Velus Jones from the practice squad, and then sign a veteran running back to the practice squad. That would be my guess. But they could go the opposite way and keep Velus on the practice squad and sign a veteran running back. I don't know. I think it's like, you kept Velus around, you should at least give him an opportunity. And he's been an asset for you on special teams. I know that hasn't gone perfectly, but he's at least a guy that you know. So yeah. But I think it's gonna be, hey, Devin Neal, you get a big opportunity here to show, hey, you can be an NFL running back. Because like, the only time the depth won't become an issue unless there's another injury. So
he looked like pretty good in the blocking game, at least.
He had one that, it's funny. I saw a highlight and like, well, what a great block. And it only looked like a great block because he didn't see it right away and he had to get there late. Now he got there, and that's why it looked impressive, because he came from the wrong side and got to it. But he should have been there earlier and had just a normal block. So I think it's an example where, it's like if you're a center fielder and you make it a spectacular diving catch and it's a highlight, but then it's like, yeah, but a good, like an elite center fielder wouldn't have had to dive for that. He would have made it a routine catch, right? Like, there's situations where you can make highlight plays that are only highlights because you had to make a highlight play when it should have been a routine play. And
I think that's what we'll give him that.
But he did make it.
Right.
And that's the important thing, is he did make it. He gave his quarterback time. And I think it's just kind of funny when you see that, like, because like the best center fielders aren't making diving catches constantly. They're just getting to fly balls and making catches that look easy, but they're not. And I think pass protection's similar. Like, when you notice the pass protection, it's because it got dangerous. Anyway, so here's a couple questions we can get to. St. John Butler says Jamal Williams, he's a free agent.
I think he's enjoying his time at home with the Cats.
He ain't coming back. But no, I think I don't think Jamal Williams is that guy. I think you probably go and say, okay, who's Kellen worked with? Who's Doug Nussmeier worked with in the past? Is there anyone sitting around? Speaking of, this is, I don't even know if I should get into this, but Doug Martin died yesterday.
I did see that,
which is insane. And the story behind it, and I don't want to get too much into it, but it's like, there's a whole lot going on there. That was Kellen Moore's teammate in college. Like, that was the Kellen Moore, Doug Martin backfield, right? Like, Kellen Moore was dominating. Doug Martin was a first-round pick. So, I mean, he's 36 years old. That's awful. And you start to read the story behind it, and he's going through.
I haven't seen the reasonings yet.
It's we don't need to get into it. He was going through a lot.
No, it was yesterday when it came out, and I was too busy with post-game stuff.
And I don't know, like, you read the initial reports, and you don't know exactly, what's going to come out. So I don't want to put anything out there that's not true. But he was going through a lot of bad shit. That's just awful. And that Bucks team. So Vincent Jackson also died. Mike Williams died. It was like, that was like their core in like 2012. Just awful. But man, it really brought down the vibe here.
Yeah, man. I mean, I know we were in stock down and all, but please.
Yeah, sorry, I shouldn't have brought that up. It was just nuts. Like, I saw that on the bus, and Trevor Penning was sitting right next to me, and I was just like, holy crap, did you guys see this? And he was like, yeah, and he's from Iowa, so like it's that area. Like, Boise State is like the mecca of football up in that part of the country.
One of the best nicknames I've heard, Muscle Hamster.
Muscle Hamster, man. I mean, go back, do yourself a favor, go back and watch the highlights of that game in 2012 against the Raiders. I think he had 235 yards and 4 touchdowns. I remember I went against the guy I played in fantasy that week had Doug Martin, and the entire day I thought I was going to win, and then like it was just like I got the hammer dropped. So anyway, rest in peace, muscle hamster. Milton Boral says, "How could the refs call that replay of Taysom's pass indisputable evidence?" Again, I those are pretty easy calls to make because you can see exactly where the ball was thrown and exactly where it was caught.
Yeah.
Like it's not like, oh, it's close. And it was close, but you go back and you watch and you see it from the right angle and it's clear. Like he let it go and it just drifted on him. Like, and it's tough, your momentum's carrying you forward. And so you have to make an effort to throw it backwards. Otherwise, if you just try to throw it straight, your momentum's going to carry it forward, and it's going to be that way every time. Yeah.
Will in the chat, Jeff, he says that's stock way down, Jeff.
I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. Charles Como says we need to see how Olave and Shough mesh. Chris will be 29, 30 years old by the time they are a playoff team. Well, that's one of the biggest reasons. It's like I think there's always talk around the trade deadline of like who's available, right? Okay, and the reason other teams are like we can trade for Chris Olave is because they think we're gonna get a great deal on him. Like the Saints must be super down on him, and we're gonna be able to steal him for like a 4th round pick. Well, that's just not what's gonna happen. And no team is, and because of his injury history, no team is going to come in and give you the type of offer that the Saints would need to even consider moving him. So it's really not a question. And then beyond that, we talked a lot about, hey, Tyler Shough is going to play at some point in the season. It's just a question of when. And when I put him out there, I had to have players, right? Like I can't just ship off all of my offensive pieces and then be like, well, now let's see what the young quarterback has.
You know what? Speaking of offensive pieces, go back to stock down. Where's Devon Villay? What's up with him?
He did draw a pass interference in this game, so he was
right.
Then that was an important play. But the first half it was no offense whatsoever. So it's not like he was alone in the fact that there was a point midway through the second quarter that I think they had 4 yards total.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just. I think he got 18 snaps. My only issue is you're playing a lot of Brandon Cooks and not throwing to Brandon Cooks. So why is he out there? And I don't know, and I think Villay's blocking was an issue. There was a couple plays that I was the Taysom Hill end around or the Taysom Hill play that got blown up. I think it was Villay that missed the block there. So I don't know. It's hard to look at him and say, well, you're the problem, because there's a lot of problems.
I just don't know. It hasn't been anything, to write home about yet, and fans are restless after making, a trade for a guy that really hasn't been a factor.
Yeah, I also think, a lot of his packages are going to come in the red zone. And I think they only had 1 trip into the red zone in this game.
No, yeah, that was definitely lacking.
So if your goal is to be like, okay, we're going to prioritize Brandon Cooks in the middle of the field so we can run around, we can take advantage of that speed. And then we're going to take advantage of Devon Villay in 3rd and short and red zone, then your snaps are going to be down when you don't get into the red zone. And the Saints just didn't the first touchdown to Chris Olave was from the 21-yard line. The second one came from the 14-yard line. So I don't know, that might've been a situation where you could get the ball to him, but you threw it to Olave. You can actually see me on the broadcast, simultaneously going like this with the ref. I should start wearing distinctive things so I can tell people in advance to be like, he's wearing that.
You can wear those lime green jerseys that who was in yesterday? Oh, the Chargers. Those yellow jerseys.
In this game, I was wearing a black jacket and khaki pants. So you could really tell because I was the only one wearing khaki pants. Anyway. So Joshua Polite says, name a 5th-round pick that can start his career 1-12 over 2 seasons and get to keep starting game after game while the fan base keeps calling him a franchise QB, asking for a friend. Yeah, I don't think that's necessarily true. I don't think the fan base is being unreasonable about Spencer. I think there's certain people who are being unreasonable about Spencer. But I also think it's I'm not going to overreact to the record either, because I've watched every game. and I understand the circumstances that go into that record. But again, like I said, like, and I think this is what you're going for, even though you're being a little mean about it, is he's gotten a fair shake at this. This is not a situation where, oh, you brought him in and you're like, we're going to make you the starter, but then 3 games in, when he struggled in predictable ways, you pull him down.
Right.
Like, that's not what's happened here. Like, this coaching staff, this front office has been remarkably patient. And if you want to pick something that's probably the biggest point of strength for this front office and this regime, it's that they're willing to be patient. They are not reactionary to a fault. And I do think that serves you well as a franchise, but it's also frustrating as a fan. And you're like, I want immediate changes. I want immediate results. And when someone doesn't get the job done, I want them to get benched and put someone else in. But that's not how good teams operate. And that's not how the Saints operate. But again, at a certain point, you do have to make that change. And it won't be because they're being, over aggressive and making a change before it's reasonable. Anyway.
I knew they just wanted to put their guy in.
Right. Well, I mean, people are saying that in the preseason. Oh, Tyler Shough's going to be the guy because they drafted him. And now it's like, wow, they're really going to turn to Tyler Shough in week 10? Like, Bobby seems to think it's going to be the Panthers. I don't think it's going to be the Panthers game. I just think if you waited this long to get that guy in the game, you're going to give him his first start on the road?
I mean, you could, Jeff, if it's another 4 turnover game, possibly.
I guess that's true. If Spencer comes back and just doesn't, and just kind of regresses, against the Bucs and the Rams, and he's the reason you're losing games, then I suppose I could see that happening. But I don't know. Like, it just seems. The other thing is, like, so if you want to be the conspiratorial part of it, it's like, well, they don't want to give. It'll be tough if you go up there and Spencer balls out. So if you're saying, hey, we're going to try to put Shough in week 12 because we want him to start his first game at home, and then Spencer goes out there and balls out in Carolina and you win a game, how do you then come back and sell that and be like, well, we got to make a change, And like, you could say, hey, well, obviously we're looking toward next season if we're 2-8 or whatever.
Yeah.
But you got to sell it in the locker room too. And these situations are very delicate because you can't sell people on we're not trying to win right now. And if the last image you have is of a guy who goes out there and plays well and wins, it's like if you've ever been in a relationship that you're really trying to get out of. And it kind of goes, it ebbs and flows, right? It ebbs and flows. It's like you're never, if you break up with someone at the peak, you're a bad person, right? You got to kind of pick that moment and be like, you know what? We're fighting a lot. Let's just, but if you wait too long, eventually, like, you go to a movie and you have a good time, and then you're back up and you're like, God damn it, I can't break up with you now. And I think that's the metaphor I'll use, because, like, I think that's true. Like, if you really want to make that change and you want to be able to sell it within a locker room, it's got to come after a negative performance. Otherwise, you're full of shit.
Yeah, I worry about right now is the evaluation of the rookie quarterback. Everyone was talking last year with all the injuries, it wasn't fair for Spencer Rattler, and now you just lost your main piece on offense with Erik McCoy. So, man, I'm not really quick on pulling that trigger anytime too soon for Shough, even though I do think we will, and I want to see him as well. But without Erik McCoy now in the mix, Jeff, man, that's a big death blow for this team.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be negative. The last question I'll say, Borderly, she says, I don't know why I always assume why do I always try to genderize this YouTube account? I don't know. Borderly says Nick Underhill is worried by the fact that there's no buzz about Shough. Like, if Shough was lighting things up in practice, there would be chatter, but he hasn't. See, I don't agree with that. Well, it's not that you just don't see it. It's that the backup quarterback doesn't get many reps in practice.
Right.
He's running scout team, and, like, I guess if like, oh, he's balling out on scout team, but it's like you're running carded looks. Like, there's only so much you're gonna do. You're not operating in a way that would be the quarterback. So I'm not gonna read too much into that. Like, I guess if you wanted to say, hey, well, why aren't we hearing more about him? But, like, what would you be hearing? And yeah. And the coaches have been very complimentary. It was funny, and this is the last thing I say. Like when we were walking into the locker room, Tyler was on his way out, and he kind of gave us a look that reminded me of when I walked by Derek Carr during the Spencer Rattler starting stretch of last year, that before Carr came back. He kind of gave me a look like, "Hey, you guys miss me now, don't you?" And it kind of felt like that. Like I don't know, maybe I'm misreading that, but it was kind of like it wasn't just like, "Hey, how you doing?" It was like. So I don't know. We'll see. But I'm one of the reasons that I felt like it made sense to kind of hold off on Shough and kind of give him a clear runway at the end of the year was because this season was always going to be rough.
Right.
And we're 1-6, probably soon to be 1-7, maybe 1-8. And if nothing else, if you go to Shough in week 12 and you kind of have that, kind of jolt of energy into the fan base of like maybe this is something. And I'm, as someone who has to watch these games, whether they're good or bad, I'm hopeful that he gives me something entertaining to watch and write about over the final 2 months.
Yeah, right now, Jeff, if you're trying to find a win, maybe at Carolina, the good old NFC South familiarity and it being always a tight game. But the Cajun Cannon was one that was like, I'm just going to go on record and saying the Saints will beat Tampa once this year. And I'm like, I just don't believe that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I've learned to stop expecting what I think is going to happen in the NFL because, like, the second I think I know what's going on, something weird happens.
Yeah, like last night's a classic one, too. I thought, Atlanta's rolling. San Fran continues to be undermanned. Falcons, unfortunately, got this. Wrong.
At one point, I tweeted, "Are the Giants the best team in the NFL?"
Oh, no.
and then about an hour later, I said, "False alarm. They're still the Giants." My dad texted me basically the same thing. But all right, that's it. That's the end of the episode. We did it. We're done. Kellen Moore's about to walk up to his podium and give us all the bad news. So we're going to head over to that. Again, thanks, everyone, for hanging out. I know this has not been fun, but I appreciate everyone who sticks around and hangs out with us. And obviously we didn't get through a full mailbag, but we'll try to do that. This has been a weird day with the timing of everything. But who dat? Go Saints. Jeff Nowak, Steve Geller. Follow Steve on Twitter at Steve Geller WWL. You can follow me too, but I don't know why you would. You can follow the show at Saints_pod and check out WWL.com for the latest news, notes, and analysis. Who dat? Go Saints.
Go listen to Coach Moore.
Peace out.